Hi, and welcome to This Is with Emrod. In today's episode, this is Maverick BJJ for the Merchantville edition. And we're going to be talking to Coach Eddie, who is the owner of Maverick BJJ, and he has been with Merchantville for about 2.5 years.
Yes,
Is that correct?
That's correct.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm going to be 48 years old. I'm originally from New York City. Spent some time in Florida. My dad worked for FDNY in New York. Didn't do well in school. Always loved martial arts. And that's pretty much it. Just stuck with different types of martial arts for many years. And fell into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a whole other very long story, about 14 years ago, and I've been with it ever since.
So you've been doing martial arts since you were a little kid?
Since I was a little kid. My dad actually started it, interestingly enough, my dad started a self-defense program in New York City when he was at EMT. And he would come home at night and he would practice in front of the mirror. So me, little Coach Eddie, would mimic him, and then got a little older, and I actually started training with his instructor when I was a teenager. And then ever since then, I've just done one form of martial arts or another. The only significant ranks I've gotten is a brown belt in judo, which is kind of a big deal, and then a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I have been a black belt. December this year will be 3 years. I'll be a black belt.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
What made you choose Jiu-Jitsu above all the others?
That is as well another long story. I will try to keep it shorter though. I was living in Florida from I guess it was about 20 to 32. So about 12, 13 years. And around that time, I guess it was around 28 or so, I got into judo. I loved it. I'm actually still friends with an instructor in Florida. I took judo. Moved back here about 16, 17 years ago or so. Couldn't find judo. There's no real judo in Jersey. There are some schools, so if anyone jumps on me, I apologize. There is Dave Asagi, who's amazing. But I couldn't find anything at the time.
Yeah.
And I tried a bunch of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools, which is kind of, sort of, similar, and came across South Jersey Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Berlin, Professor Stephen Borgiano, who incorporated judo in his jiu-jitsu. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll never get any better at judo, but I won't lose the 8 years I spent learning it.
Yeah.
And ended up training there and ended up loving it, and I never stopped training.
And how long ago did you start your own company?
This 2.5 years here. So I've been teaching for a lot. Yeah, this is the first place I've taught on my own. But I've been teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that you end up as an assistant helper, like a teacher's helper, very early on, like 2 or 3 years into it. So I've been helping in some fashion or another for most of my Jiu-Jitsu career. I started teaching, getting paid for it just before COVID, right about a year before COVID. Did that for a while. COVID hit, couldn't teach, obviously. Things opened back up. I taught at 2 other places for a little while, and it just didn't work out. Distance, they're very far away. One was in Mays Landing, the other one was in Millville. Love that school. Just didn't work out. As far as opening this, I don't know if you want me to tell that story.
Oh, yes, of course we will hear this story. This is what it's all about.
So, I had a little bit of money. Again, not tell it because we could be here, for 2 hours telling everything.
Oh, tell me.
But I wasn't able to teach at the couple of the schools I was at the time, and I didn't really have anything going for me, honestly. I'm an auto mechanic by trade. I did EMS. I did transport EMS for 13 years, but I wasn't going back to it. COVID killed me on that, and I just lost all love for doing that kind of work. And I was like, I'm not going to go flip burgers. No disrespect to anyone that does, but I wasn't going to go back to that. So I was kind of like sitting on the couch. I had a little bit of money, and a very little bit of money in the bank. And I was sitting there and talking to my best friend. I'm like, I should just open up my own school. And she said, do it. So I went on Craigslist, and I found 2 places that were within a distance, because I have to be so far from my home school
Okay.
I can't open up right near which I do live. I'm only 10 minutes from my home school. So I have to be so far away from the home school, but not be in interference with any of the other associate schools. So it kind of turned into,
it's really
it's very, very
tricky.
tricky. There is those things. And then there's other schools in general. You know, I don't want to open up across the street from a very successful school that's already going well. You know, so there's all of that. So, and then there's, what could I afford? You know, there's that as well. So I had, there was two options. There's a place on 130, I guess you call it Pennsylvania. I call it Camden. I call it Camden. It's right by the pub.
Yeah.
Where there's like the Salvation Army.
Yeah.
Right over there. There's a strip mall next to it. There's a place over there. I think they turned into a hairdresser place. Oh. And then there was this place, and I called up both. I came here. The Ryan Middleton, the guy that owns this building, loves helping new businesses get started. He absolutely, it's one of his favorite things in the world to do. So I explained to him what I wanted to do, what would be being done here. I couldn't afford at the time to be here 5 nights a week. So I started out with 3 classes a week. That was it.
Oh, wow. So which days were you
It was
teaching?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was only teaching 1 class between those periods in the beginning. Got enough students where I added a kids class. So I had 2 classes on Mondays, 2 classes on Wednesdays. Friday remains the same because to me, kind of like work, you don't want to bust your butt Friday. Yeah. You want that to be done.
Yeah.
You know, you want to kind of coast through Friday and get to your weekend. Get to the weekend, right. So Fridays will never be a teaching class. It's just, hey, you want to come, train, have fun, music's playing and all that, 100%. More than that, you ask me questions, obviously. I will help you. We can, you know, but I don't want it so structured and rigid. I try to teach a very laid back class. So that, I eventually got to a point where I added Monday through Friday, and then I ended up adding where I'm actually technically here all day Monday through Friday. I'm offering noon classes Tuesdays and Thursdays, and next month I'm starting 6 a.m. on Wednesdays for people that want to train before
they go to work.
Oh,
that's great. At
so
6 a.m.
6 a.m. I will not be doing that. One of my coaches will be doing that.
Okay.
I won't be there for that. It's too early for me.
So the 6 a.m. class, you have to know any jiu-jitsu to start that class?
Never. No, none of the classes you have to know anything.
Okay.
All of the classes, especially, with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's different mindsets for schools. Some are kind of like competition schools, so you got like the young guys that want to go out and get the medals, and you know, and they're half the training classes doing push-ups and all that stuff. And then there's what they call more easygoing schools, where people that go to work, people that have jobs, people that gotta get up the next day, and they can't be putting their body through that kind of stress every single day. We're kind of on that spectrum. I want a class, and I want an environment where injuries are minimal, the fun level's high. There's no one, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is good about this regardless. It's one of the things that people love about it. There's no judging. You know, if you think you've got 2 or 3 pounds over than you would like, we're the place for you. If you're shy and you really don't think you can deal with a big group, we're the school for you. You know, you like to joke around, we're the school for you. As long as you're not disrespectful, that's a word I would use. If you're not, so I guess that's probably the easiest way to explain it. If you're capable of respecting your partner, you know, every other person on the mat, then this is the place for you. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has done something. For the people that don't know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes. What is it? What entails?
Well, there's 2 things.
Because it's like, I don't know anything about it.
So the short version to that is that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a grappling self-defense. But bigger than that, it's really a mindset. And there's two parts to that, as far as I'm concerned. One is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one of the few things you can do, whether you call it a hobby, a lifestyle, or anything in between. It's the only thing you can do where race, finances, creed, politics don't matter. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. Has nothing to do with anything. The only thing that matters is that you're a decent person. If you're not a decent person, those people get weeded out very, very quickly. They get pushed out, and it's not even something like there's a joke that there used to be mat enforcers, people that would enforce, we're doing it this way, and if you act like a butthead, we're getting you out because we're going to beat you up. There used to be that.
Oh wow.
The good thing about the way the way jiu-jitsu is now is that it's not like that anymore. If you are not vibing with that group, it's apparent very, very quickly, and you'll find someplace else.
Right.
You know, maybe you like, going hard and being aggressive and hitting it hard, and I'm just not that school. That's not the school that's not what I'm cultivating. But there are plenty of schools, where you want to win medals. Please, I will help you find that school.
Okay.
That's the good thing about jiu-jitsu. We all want everyone to do jiu-jitsu.
And this is more like a self-defense. It's not so much like fighting.
So there.
My little investigation
you're not mistaken.
They went from Japan to Brazil and teaching some. Very
good.
Yes, I did a little.
I'll tell you this. You know more than 90% of my students. Okay, that was really good. So depends who you ask. Truthfully, honestly.
Okay.
It depends what school you ask. I see Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a style or an art of self-defense that all women and all children should be learning, at least for a year or two. I absolutely believe in my heart of hearts that there's a false sentence that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was made for smaller people to beat up on bigger people. That's complete erroneous. That's wrong. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was designed for someone that is trained, me, to be able to beat an opponent that is not trained, regardless of size. So the mindset kind of gets warped. Oh, well, I could be a bigger guy. Yes, as long as that bigger guy doesn't know what I know.
Exactly, because then you're in trouble.
Then I'm in trouble, because then weight and strength come back into play. But as long as I'm dealing with someone that's got, and I don't go to the bars anymore, but if I went to a bar and I got into a disagreement because I was looking at the pretty lady that he was with and wasn't paying attention because I'm an idiot, and he put his hands on me, well, he's probably in trouble because he's probably not trained. He probably spends every weekend in the bar drinking, and he doesn't box, doesn't wrestle, doesn't do taekwondo, whatever. He's probably in the world of hurt, even with me drinking. That would be that scenario. No. But I'm just saying. Now, what does that mean? That means that a young lady who's not very big, you're a small framed woman, spending 2 or 3 years doing this, you can legitimately, and I mean this, legitimately defend yourself against a man that's 230 pounds that is not trained. Now, if the guy wrestled, or he did boxed, or did some sort of art, you're in trouble. It's just like anything else.
Like anything else.
It's like anything else. Yeah.
So you're doing like this free self-defense classes.
Women's self-defense every Friday.
Every other Friday.
Today. Every other Friday, at 5:00 here.
And how much can you learn in that period of time?
So the short answer, and this is what I'm trying to expose people to. In an hour, nothing. Honestly. Anyone that believes that you could take one self-defense class once every 6 months or once a year and you're going to be able to pull your keys out and jam them in the dude's face?
Probably not.
It's a mistake. It's going to end badly. I go over a lot of stuff, and I'm not trying to really talk badly to any other styles that teach you that way, but there's a lot of stuff that, in reality, if you actually take 5 seconds and look at the mechanics of what would happen, for argument's sake, that we teach something, they teach, guy grabs a woman by her neck, and he's standing in front of her, like, well, just throw your knee in his groin. Okay, well, let's assume that the heights work, and I'm not towering over you, and you can't reach your knee up that high to generate enough power. Well, if you're within arm's length, the woman and the man, and you need the guy in the groin, well, if it works, what's the guy going to do? He's going to buckle forward, right? He's going to buckle forward with power. Well, within that close to someone, he's actually going to headbutt you in the face. You forced a grown man at 230 pounds to slam you in the face with his head.
Oh, man.
And a lot of the self-defense that's being taught is junk. That's like that. It makes... Don't get me wrong. Can kicking a guy in the groin, yeah, you can hurt him and you can get him to pause, but you have to do it when he doesn't have his hands on you. You know, that doesn't help. If he's got his hands tangled in your hair and you're kicking,
it's not gonna help because it's gonna pull you right along,
or piss him off more.
Yeah, that's another thing that I did one self-defense class a while ago. I do not remember most of the things that were taught, but I do remember that they said the more you're aggressive towards them, the more they'll reciprocate and they'll get angrier.
They'll get angrier. The more you fight back. So, and that's the thing about jiu-jitsu. Like, there's a position, and I don't know how to say it without being crude. I'm going to try and keep it as clean as possible. But there's a position where a woman is in a compromised position, like kind of a unconsent position.
Okay.
And even on, like, that's something I can show a woman in one class, where if they got stuck there, they might be able to actually break his neck.
Oh, wow.
It generates a lot of power, because what happens, the way the technique is designed is that you're using your whole body and ultimately putting your power on the back of his skull. And you might be able to hurt him. But you're already in the worst case scenario.
Yeah, you're already in the worst, so you might as well try.
You might as well try.
Yeah.
I don't believe in going limp. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
On a personal level, you know, especially watching bad movies growing up my whole life, I've always thought of, well, if I go along with it, what's to keep them from discarding me afterwards?
Yeah, no.
I might as well go down fighting.
Go down fighting, yeah.
And I'm not telling women to do that. I'm just saying that.
Some people I feel like freeze and they just don't know how to do it because they have no training.
Guys are that way too. Yeah. Believe it, it's not just women.
Yeah.
Guys are like that, and that's the problem. And like you say, it is a lack of training, and that's where. And again, we could talk about jiu-jitsu and the mindsets, and these are debates that if you start watching BJJ Instagrams, you'll see videos all day long about sports versus self-defense, and they believe that my generation of black belts and the next generation of black belts in particular have really turned this into a sport. There's no longer the self-defense aspect of it. And I argue that in a sense they're right. I understand where they're coming from, but I think they forget that we're still practicing most of these movements in a fighting situation, in a combat situation, and against another person that's trying to stop us from doing it full on for a stupid $2 medal, you know, like they're dependent on it. So to say a sport jiu-jitsu guy doesn't know anything about self-defense, I think that statement by itself is wrong. I think if you say, whoa, a sports jiu-jitsu guy would get his head knocked off if he met a boxer. Yes, but I'm telling you this right now, anyone that pissed off a boxer would get their head knocked off. Boxers are perfectionists at their art. That's just what it is. Anyone that wants to argue with me can. I don't care. I have very strong opinions about the arts. Please, like I said, I get hours.
You could keep talking.
I can keep talking.
What are your goals for this jiu-jitsu class?
So my end game is to have enough students, enough classes, to not have to work part-time anymore, obviously. You know, have my little house somewhere, have my dogs and all that. All the where the business is covering my mortgage and my cars and my dogs and all that stuff. And to run an outreach program for kids I can't do. Okay. I want to. I always say urban, but we're here. You know what I mean by this. I want to sponsor. My long-term goal is to sponsor, depending upon how big I get, who knows. But I would love to have about 20 kids from 13 to 17 from Camden, and tuition's free, uniforms are free. Taking them to tournaments on my dime, and I train with them exclusively. Like, that's my team that I'm training to go to do tournaments and just get 20 kids off the streets in Camden. That is my end game. And you know, you say that, and I don't think, to me, it's not. But
it's like you are having that idea. A lot of people just see it and don't do anything. So you're kind of like thinking of doing something.
Oh yes.
You know, and approaching it that way.
I came close from starting it sooner. I didn't even know it existed. Did you know that there's a Salvation Army
The Croc Center?
Yes.
Yes.
Most people don't know about that place.
Oh,
there needs to be more. I kid you. I mean, I know the people that live there know about it, but no one outside of Camden knows that place exists.
Oh, yeah.
It's...
Oh, my daughter worked there.
Did she?
As a lifeguard, yeah.
So one of the gentlemen that works there, one of the directors, contacted me, and I want to contact him again, but I can't find his number on my phone, wanted me to start a program there.
Awesome.
It didn't work out at the time. We were supposed to do this like 9 months ago. And what happened was, and I don't know the particulars, but they run it actually like a military. Like there's lieutenants and captains and whatnot.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know this. And they just got new, whatever the ranks are, they just got 2 new people in. So they're kind of like reshuffling and getting everything streamlined again. So they were supposed to come back to me in January. And I'm not saying they forgot, but maybe they found someone else, but it hasn't happened. Yeah. But yeah, I was really excited about that. It was gonna be a little bit draining because it was gonna be 2 nights a week when I'm supposed to be here and all that. So I was gonna be jumping between 2 schools, but it would have been already like kind of like
what you were aiming to do.
What I was aiming to do in the first place. So I was very, very excited about it. I'm still excited. If I come across this number, I keep trying to like work myself up to go over there because I can't remember his name. Just go over there and show up. I grew up in Astoria, and my best friend, I'll keep saying my best friend, Queens, yes. Astoria, Queens. There was nothing to do at night. You know what I mean? And then when I was a teenager, we moved to Ocean County, which was like, to me, like culture shock. And it isn't today. But to me, it was culture shock. And after 6 o'clock, there was nothing to do for kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are these kids doing? Like, I drove home last night, and I'm sure he wasn't, a kid. He was probably, in his 20s. But he's on one of these, dirt bike things that shouldn't be on the street, just driving through town, running red lights, going through the circle. I'm like, well, what if you had a jiu-jitsu school to go to? Something to do. Yeah. Whatever. Pickleball. I don't care. Whatever. Something. Maybe, maybe...
Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel like a lot of schools are cutting on like extracurricular activity, which is like really sad.
Which is, I'll tell you this.
Kids need that, especially the
that area.
Yeah.
I just found this out working with the Croc Center, that Camden doesn't have a wrestling program.
Oh.
I did not know that, and I don't know why. And I'm sure there's some person.
Do you teach wrestling?
No, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, going back to that for a second, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a form of grappling. And I didn't answer that question earlier. I apologize. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is it technically starts from your feet, and you learn how to control someone, distance, range, protect yourself, grab them, get them down to the ground, and subdue them. Whether that is with a joint lock, whether that's with a position, whether that's putting them to sleep, whatever. But that's basically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in a nutshell. So, although it's not wrestling, because wrestlers would be very mad at me if I called it wrestling, I call it grappling. It is a form of grappling where, you're in each other's face.
But I noticed you said you do match. So even though you're not like extremely serious about it, you still go and do match.
Oh yes, I still compete. I still compete. So here's the thing. This is kind of you know how the saying goes, I would never have someone do something I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not going to ask my team to go out and do something I'm not going to do. And I remember what I liked and didn't like going through the ranks, training for the last 14 years. And my instructor was not like this. I'm just using this as a reference because my instructor is the best instructor in Jersey, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe the East Coast. But I don't do well with people, over you barking orders, repeating themselves 37 times. I never did well with that. I did well with, here it is. It's probably going to take you 6 months. Let's check it again in 6 months. Yes, I will help you, but I'm not going to be on top of you. And oftentimes, and after a couple of months of my students being here, they learn very quickly on that I am watching them all the time, but a lot of the time I'd be like, oh, professor's on his phone. And I'll go, and not a name, I'm just picking a name. Yeah. Bob, don't do that. And Bob will look up and be like, how'd you know? I know everything. I know what's going on every square foot of my mat, which is 1,100 square feet, by the way. But yeah, it's I do compete personally. And one of my guys are going to compete tomorrow. One of my students are going to compete tomorrow. They're going
Is
to
it around the area, or you have to drive far?
This one we have to drive to Downington. But so there's tournaments in Jersey, there's tournaments in Delaware, there's tournaments in PA, but they're everywhere. There's always something going on. We just had a really big one a couple weekends ago in Atlantic City. Huge tournament, which is really amazing. But I don't ask my people to compete. As a matter of fact, I actually encourage them not to compete. Not to say they can't. I know what it takes to compete. I know what it feels like building up to that match. I know what it feels like during that match. I know what it feels like after the match. And I'm not an athlete. So every win or loss, I've earned every bit of it. And, none of it's, not that it's easy for athletes because, they have to work too, work hard. But, I'm not gifted strong. I'm not gifted fast. I'm not gifted, limber, and I'm pushing 50.
but still you were able to do all this.
I still do. I'm actually competing in April. I'm competing in April in Tennessee. But I know what it takes, so I tell my people, I go, listen, if you want to compete, let me know. But be warned that if you tell me you're going to do that, I'm going to train you that way. So from the day you tell me you're signed up to do that tournament, you're going to be trained till that tournament for that tournament. And you're not going to like me. And you're going to hate me. And you'll be mad at me.
Because you're going to be tough.
Because I'm going to be tough. But
and you're not usually like that.
I'm interestingly enough, so how do I give you a good analogy? I'm really laid back 80% of the time. 80% of the time, almost anything can happen. I'm really okay with respect. I always respect to each other. But always, there's a few rules that have to be abided by. And the biggest one is safety. Number one thing in this school is safety. Some students don't stay because I err so much on the safety that I won't either teach a certain way that's aggressive, or I won't teach certain moves that I deem aggressive. Because I don't see the value of learning that one move and 8 people get hurt, and now I've got 8 students out, and then I've got 8 students that no longer want to train, and now I'm out 8 tuitions. So then now I'm 8 people behind trying to get to my dream. So it doesn't make any sense. For me personally, some schools,
because you're like safety first.
Safety first. Safety first is number 1. Fun is number 2. Gotta have fun. Music, joking, laughing, all that. Jiu-jitsu is number 3. So it's very backwards for me compared to most schools, because it's jiu-jitsu first.
Right.
Then respect. Then safety. Then no, I have the mats get mopped, because it's not just physical safety. Well, hygiene, it's cold, especially post COVID. Whatever your belief, and I'm more on the liberal side of things, but whatever your belief is, my mats are mopped between all the classes. There's a foot wash station that you have to put your feet in before you even step on the mat. I don't know where you're bringing from home.
Yeah.
And we make a joke, and no one does it because I'm the one that cleans out the bucket. But I have 8 people that take socks and shoes off. 20, whatever. They step in the bucket. They step on the mat. Everything's good. I clean out the mat. The mat looks, the bucket's disgusting.
Now that, is there anything that you want to tell people that we haven't talked about?
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is physically demanding. But the hardest part about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is trying the first class. And I have a lot of people like, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is if there is I think a decent statement for it, it really is designed for anybody. Okay. It really is designed that anyone, there's so much to it that you may not do Jiu-Jitsu the way I taught you. You'll do Jiu-Jitsu that works for you.
Right.
So you may have 20 moves that you're really, really good at, but they're not the same 20 that I'm really good at. And that's everyone. Right. Everyone across the board. I show the material, it's kind of like school. kind of look at it like this. There's 10 different programs in school. Some of it's science, some of it's history, some of it's art, some of it's politics, whatever.
Right.
Not everyone's good at math.
Not everybody's good at math or art.
Or art.
Amazingly enough.
Right.
Yeah.
And jiu-jitsu is the same thing. Everyone finds what they're good at. Jiu-jitsu is for everyone, and everyone will find but they have to stick with it. The other thing I tell people, 2 classes. You have to try 2 classes. The first one's always overwhelming. You come in, you have no idea what just happened. You leave here kind of in a whirlwind. You have to come back a second time. Then make a determination. On whether you actually like it or not. That would be my advice. Just try. It doesn't have to be my school. There's a really gorgeous school right down the road in Collingswood. Just opened up. Really, really beautiful school. There's another good school in Cherry Hill. I don't want to name other names because I want to name my school.
Of course. This is where they should come.
Right. Well,
where the fun is at.
Well, that's true too. But there's a lot of good schools in the area. Try any school. Just try Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's for everyone. And I implore women and children to really, really give it a try.
Really give it a try. So what advice do you have for any young entrepreneur who would like to open their own business? What are the tough things that you had to deal with? The rewarding things that keeps you in it?
I think the biggest thing is you just gotta go and try. And that sounds horrible. I don't have money. I don't have support. I don't have whatever. You gotta forget all those excuses because all of them are excuses. If you talk to any of my peers, any of my supporting peers, whenever there's a few new schools that opened up around the same time I did, and they're doing amazing. Simply, hats off to them. Beautiful schools, love them. But whenever things kind of like there's a question, my peer professor, my mentor, Professor Bob, he's under Professor Steve, but Bob's one of those people that have been there since day one.
Yeah.
He always tells everyone, ask Ed, because Ed did it all with nothing. And I don't mean that from a conceited perspective, and I don't mean it from a place of negativity. I had nothing. I didn't. There was no one handing me keys. There was no money. Like when I say a little bit of money, I think I had. I don't want to exaggerate. Maybe $2,200 when I opened up.
And you had to buy all the equipment and everything.
I was fortunate with some of my equipment I had. Things kind of worked out during COVID. When our school was shut down, we would never have found some other place to train at and bought mats at and trained in private. We would never, ever do something like that. So we actually had a few mats. When I opened up, the mats you see is approximately 55 mats, 60 mats. When I opened up, I had 22. That's how small the class was when I first started.
Wow.
So a third maybe of what we have now. So it's just do it. Just go out there and do it. The excuses is all it is. They're just excuses. I'm not saying sleep in your car. I don't advise that for anyone. But if you're waiting for tomorrow's too late. Just
do it now.
Just do it now.
Do you had a lot of family support or not really?
Financially, no. My 3 biggest supporters. One, I'm gonna say she's my best friend. She doesn't like me using her name on anything on social media.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
But if she doesn't know who she is, she helps me with my Legos. That'll be my hint. That's who I'm talking to. I love Legos. My dad was my biggest supporter, who's passed away now a year, November, December, January, February, almost a year and a half he's been passed away.
Sorry to hear that.
And he was in the hospital, which was crazy when I opened up. I'm just glad he never got to see me teach. Yeah, he never got to see me teach a class, but was there to see me get my black belt, and I did get to bring him into the academy to see the academy.
Oh, see, so
he didn't get to see it. He just didn't get to see me teach a class.
Yeah.
I brought him by like on a Sunday or something. I was driving by. My dad had lost one of his legs. Diabetes, heart disease, all that. Yeah. So it was difficult getting up the steps. But we did it. So he got to see it. So my dad was number one. Coach Brewer, I will give a shout out to him. Michael Brewer from Brewer's Heating and Air Conditioning. Marlton. I can't say enough good things about the man. He's been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with me for 8-9 years. When things were rough, he gave me a job. I would not have survived the first year without him, honestly. And then, like I said, my best friend. She. I will say it this way: she is a Spanish woman, and she's hard love. It's like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to do it. Then don't do it.
Oh wow.
Well, stop crying. Either do it or don't do it.
Exactly.
And that's the way she is, and she's just like her mom, and
she pushes you.
She pushes me. Yeah. There's no excuses. No excuses with that woman. So those are the three big ones.
So, and it seems like you held on to those people. Like you have to identify your people that are like, sometimes it's not even a family member, it's an outsider. And you have to identify them and like hold on to them and be grateful and reciprocate.
100%.
Right.
100%. In the jiu-jitsu world, again, I got my black belt from Stephen Bongiorno, who helped me out with syllabus and whatnot for the first 2 years or so. Many of the black belts from our school were, South Jersey Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, as far as I know, the only school that's produced. Professor, if I get this number wrong, I apologize. 26 or 28 black belts.
So much trouble,
I might. 26 or 28 black belts he's produced.
Oh wow.
No one, I don't think anyone can claim that number. And if I'm wrong, I don't care because he's still the best. Many of the black belts from that school that I count as friends have been here to support me. Professor Riddles, Professor Bob, Professor Quinn, Professor Mike V, Professor Scott, man, I don't want to miss anyone. Professor Matt and Felicia, they're both black belts. Husband-wife duo, they're amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's one of the toughest. I won't even say women. She's one of the toughest competitors. Felicia Rainier, one of the toughest black belts, as far as I'm concerned, that ever existed. She would beat me up for saying that, but I firmly believe it. It's just truly an amazing practitioner. It's kind of like, oh, great female doctor. No, is that a great doctor or not? Exactly. And we try to make that distinction, especially with Professor Felicia. I really don't want to miss any other black belts, but and all the other guys have come to visit. Coach Dave, one of my early competitors, Coach Mike from Delaware, out of Kaizen Jiu-Jitsu, and his instructor is super supportive. Randomly, oh man, I'm gonna get the name wrong. I believe it's Precision Jiu-Jitsu in Outer Banks, North Carolina.
Oh wow.
I visit there. Yeah, I go to Outer Banks. Try to go to Outer Banks once a year, and the last trip, I've been to their school a bunch of times, but the last trip, and I apologize, I can't remember his name, but the professor, I had never met the professor before the last trip, and the last time I was there, we got to talking, and he gave me a whole bunch of material to help me streamline my business. Didn't know me. Knew me an hour.
Yeah.
Like literally an hour, and literally was giving me all of his paperwork to use here. He goes, just copy it. Literally just copy it and use it here. And sure as heck, 90% of the paperwork I have now is all the stuff that he gave me to use. So, and that's a jiu-jitsu community. I like to say it this way, that the good thing about BJJ, training BJJ, is that if you got a BJJ t-shirt on and you walk into any other state and you walk into a Walmart and someone else trains, they'll be like, you train? And they'll be like, you train? And then you get a fist bump and you're like best friends. Like, it's just crazy. It's kind of like I don't know if you've ever met anyone from New York, but it's like, hey, you from New York? Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from Queens. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. So, but yeah, just do it. Just go out there and do it. Like they said when we were kids, follow your dreams with respect to, not getting yourself in trouble.
Exactly.
Doing something illegal or anything stupid like that. Within reason, try it. Even if it's a weekend thing. You want to sell paint? Go rent a booth in a flea market. They're not that much money. Like even I can afford that. Rent the booth and try to sell paintings.
Yeah.
Maybe you break even, but you're doing what you love.
Exactly. And you could do something starting on the side. It doesn't have to be full time.
Doesn't have to be full time.
Well, it's been great talking to you. I've learned a lot.
Thank you.
About jiu-jitsu and your class, your school, because your school is fun. That I learned, and you're still teaching jiu-jitsu, and it's all about safety.
Yes, 100%. Yes. And you can be. Honestly,
and Fridays are the fun days.
Fridays are fun days. Fridays are fun days. Yes, Fridays is the time to come in and just, again, you walk in, there'll be people rolling around, and there'll be music playing, and people drinking water, and it's just mellow. Anyone that's ever been to my school, the first thing they always say is like, "I love the vibe here." Love the vibe here. It's just very laid back. There's no pressure to perform. You're your own worst critic right off the bat. Let alone worrying about what other people. No, it's not like that. And you get that like anything else. It's your first time here, like, oh, everyone's watching me. Well, guess what? I had that day, and as a matter of fact, to kind of put things in perspective, I had a black belt visit Monday night, and I'm teaching a move that I've taught. I don't want to say thousands of times, but I've taught enough times. Yeah. I've taught enough times, especially in the last 2.5 years. And I kid you not, I fumbled. Because now there's another black belt. I fumbled. I made a joke out of it.
Yes.
And I told him, I go, is that like I had a hard time doing this one, Professor? I swear. And, I make it. And that's one of the things that my, a peer of mine, black belt of mine, had said it very well, Professor Scott. He goes, you guys are very lucky. You have an instructor that will not BS you. He will give you everything. He won't lie to you. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff here. I'm going to tell you everything that's going on. There's no hidden agendas. I just want you to show up and train. You don't even have to be great. I don't think I'm good. That's one of the humbling things about jiu-jitsu. And that's a whole other conversation. But you don't have to just come here and train and maybe lose 2 or 3 pounds.
Awesome.
And make some friends.
That's always good.
That's always good.
That's always good. Well, thank you so much for doing this and for joining us. I hope you all learned something about jiu-jitsu. And I'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Oos.
Oos. What was that?
Oos. Very good. Very good.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.